Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I hope you're having an incredible Tuesday or wherever you are in the world. You might be ahead of us. You might already be in Wednesday. Either way, man, I just want to tell everybody, thank you for coming to the show. This is a different show. I always say sometimes it's a different show. This is a switch on our show. Actually, this is the first show that we're going to be doing in the Hajj period. And it couldn't have come at this is a more awkward time, if you will. We're in the middle of so many things that are going. It's almost like the way Ramadan came in. We was unsure about COVID. We were unsure about social justice, all these things, and then here comes this mercy of Hajj. And I thought it'd really be cool to actually talk a little bit about Hajj, but from the idea or the vantage point of somebody who hasn't gone to Hajj. You know, I've had the pleasure of being around people that made the pilgrimage for a lot of years. I've had my opportunities. I had some things happen family-wise, family health issues. Wasn't able to go. But, you know, I have to say that as an outsider, before I was even Muslim, as an outsider, the idea of Hajj was something that was so absolute, so beautiful, such a confirming activity of faith and devotion that I remember when I took my Shahada, I just couldn't wait to make this pilgrimage to Mecca. And it has such deep ramifications other than just going. For African Americans who, I'll be honest, I was a person that didn't get my passport until later in my life. I traveled different places. Alan's had never gone to the UK, definitely hadn't gone to the Middle East. But what was beautiful, if I can call it beautiful, is that it gave a certain transcendence to the fact that as I was a Muslim, I was more so a international citizen. I was an international citizen of the world. When I say that, it means that my religion now carried me someplace. It was like a maximum. It's not where it starts, where it ends up. And I found that taking my Shahada allowed me to transcend a lot of things that were going in the United States, personal-wise, business-wise, because there was this end goal. There was this end goal. The idea of 5 pillars. You did all of them Ramadan, but this one was a little bit different. This one was almost a little bit mythical. And I'm going to say why it's a little bit mythical, and I hope people can bear with me here, because this takes a little bit of patience on both our parts. You, the listener, and myself, the speaker. You know, the idea of Hajj was interesting because we always see the Malcolm X movie. We see the Malcolm X movie with Denzel Washington and how he goes to Hajj and he talks about meeting blonde-haired, blue-eyed Muslims for the first time, and that's all transformative. It was all transformative. But you know, that was a movie version of it. That was the movie version of it. If you ever get a chance, please go and check out the autobiography of Malcolm X and watch him talk about the journey to get to Hajj. It was his sister Ella that gave him the money to go. And by Allah's grace, Ella was able to go to Hajj after Malcolm. But she talked about the importance of sending him to Hajj in a way that many of us may be able to comprehend or not comprehend. It was a completion. It was a completion. Like, you have these tasks to do, and this one was a completion. And what was interesting was that when he got to Hajj, he didn't get in right away. He had to call people. He had to get some hookups. He didn't have money. You know, and it's an interesting thing. Let me give some shout outs here. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Kina, got you my du'as for your nephew. Brother Muhammad, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for tuning into the show. I'm going to talk about Hajj in a different way. I love the idea of Hajj as a non-Muslim. I'm going to tell you why. Because in the Christian tradition, we only talked about heaven. We only talked about heaven. You're going to live your life, you can go to heaven, that's it. As a Muslim, the space to go to Hajj gives you, in some regards, hey, what's up going on, brother? Assalamu alaikum, Sean. The idea of going to Hajj gives you, in some regards, you're talking 2 million people come to this one space for religious devotion. It gives you, in some regards, almost a model of what heaven looks like. Like, I'll be totally honest with you. I don't like crowds. Like, I don't like crowds. Anybody that really knows me knows I don't like crowds. Say, how are you a comedian? You don't like crowds? I'm a comedian because when you're on the stage, you're the only one there. I don't like crowds. The safest place for me to be is on stage. And even going to Hajj, I realized that I'm going to have to get over that. There's, 2 million people there who couldn't give a dang about whether I don't like crowds or not. It is the ultimate crowd. And when we speak about this, the idea of Hajj for African Americans is interesting because you had Malcolm go in the early 60s, Elijah Muhammad wanted to go. You have all of these guys going. But it was almost a revisiting of the Ahmadiyya Muslims who were jazz musicians and would take jazz around the world and come back with Islam and share it with people. It is interesting because that spirit has never died. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's being interviewed. He could possibly be the next showrunner for this show on TBS starring Tracy Morgan called The Last OG. And the storyline of The Last OG is that the guy Trey, gets out of prison and he comes back to Brooklyn after 15 years. And he's trying to get his life together. Well, I actually dealt with a real life Trey, but his name was not Trey. His name was Ahmad Bilal, and he had done some years, 85% of a 10-year bid at a correctional facility in Las Vegas. He came to me my first year of teaching when I was in Long Beach. He was just out of the joint, and everybody when they're first out of the joint, they're trying to figure out who's who. Long story short, we had a relationship that lasted almost 20 years. And I saw Ahmad struggle, brothers and sisters, with being Muslim and holding on to your deen and not giving up and not going back to the old ways. And the thing that used to light his eyes up, despite the fact he dealt with being an older ex-con, the fact he dealt with, issues of family, the fact he didn't have the money he needed. I mean, he stayed literally on Crenshaw, 60th and Crenshaw. I used to pick him up and we would go. And every time I come into LA, I pick him up and we go eat and all that type of stuff. In fact, he was the first security guard for Allah Made Me Funny back in the day, just trying to get him going. The thing that kept that guy going, and I'm talking about for a lot of years, the thing that kept him going was this idea that one day he was going to get a chance to go to Hajj. Let me say that again. One day he was going to get a chance to go to Hajj. That's all he would talk about. Brother, I'm trying to go to Hajj. Brother, I'm trying to go to Hajj. And that's all he talked about because he was older. He was like, I want to go to Hajj where I can still make tawaf. And this is elevated talk, folks. This is very elevated talk. And he was inspiring me like, I'm trying to go to Hajj too. And, and we have this fever about going to Hajj, and we would talk about the stories about why there's a Hajj, why there's an Eid al-Adha. And you know what? In between our conversations, in between our gab, if you will, we recognize, especially out of our communities, the importance of building trust, the importance of building faith, the importance of looking to a person that you may not know that well and go, you know what? In the space of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I got your back. And I had his back for a lot of years, financially, things like that. But he had my back spiritually. I was a young guy in Long Beach going through all kinds of problems. But it was interesting to watch him go through these stages, much like this character Trey on the show, The Last OG, And this guy was an OG. I mean, he spoke Japanese. He worked for Xerox. He did everything. He had a security company. It was one of those things, wrong place, wrong time. I won't go into that. But the twinkle in the elder's eye when he would talk about Hajj would move you to tears. It would literally move you to tears. And I have been hearing conversations. I'm gonna bring some other folks in. I said, Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Big sis, walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have to say that I've been a little worried, a little nervous, because people are talking about Hajj in the past tense. They're speaking about Hajj about what it used to be, not what it can be following COVID. And I have to correct folks on behalf of myself and the spirit of people like Brother Ahmad Bilal, that the fact of the matter is all things are in Allah's hands. All things. Life, death, everything in between is in Allah's hands. And why are we walking around with these sad faces? You know, I thought about it. You know, Hajj has quote unquote been compromised due to COVID. Yes. But they found some way, somehow, to allow some people to come in and make Hajj. So in my perspective, I say alhamdulillah, that the people who are there, my only wish, request is pray for the people who couldn't come this year. And understand that our will and our intention and our faith and our willingness to go should not be underscored or underrated. We are a people who are motivated. Let me say this, motivated by a space whereby we understand serving creation. And Hajj is one of those things. Hajj has history. And I know people know this is not the first time Hajj was canceled. This one wasn't even canceled. All praises due. But Hajj has had some problems. People tore it up and things like that. But I want you to understand the perspective from somebody who hasn't gone. I started out with somebody who wasn't even Muslim talking about Hajj. And you would look in a book, imagine the power. You would look in a book reading about Malcolm X being a hustler, to being a dancer, being the this, being a that, and he gets to a spot about Hajj, and that space is an entire chapter. And it takes you, if you will, it transcends you, if you will, so far beyond the problems that you see today. Because Hajj is not about racism. Hajj was not about sexism. Hajj was not about COVID. Hajj was not about politics. Hajj was about, man, get there and connect and work on your relationship with God. That is the most basic thing. And I'm saying this because I know some people don't call me up. They're looking for me to get on the pity train. I couldn't go to Hajj this year. You couldn't Hajj. You know what, bro? A lot of people couldn't go to Hajj this year. And sadly, there are a lot of people who will never go to Hajj anymore. Allah's called them home. So because you couldn't get your package, and I want to say this to some of the Hajj package groups, y'all better refund that money now. Stop acting funny. You give the money back. Give the money back. Give it back. But for those of us that had an enlightened spirit and we never ever went to Hajj, don't call us. Don't call us. Don't complain. Let us live in this space that we've been living our whole lives. I've been Muslim over 30 years. I tell people a little bit, don't mess up my vibe. Don't mess up my vibe, my tone, my feel. This is real. And think about this, folks. My brother Ahmad, my big brother, if you will, I love that cat. I get sad sometimes when I do shows because we used to go do shows together and I take him with me. We talk about going to Hajj and this deen, and I watch this brother fight the demons of being out, not having money, coming up short constantly, but he never compromised his deen. And he said, you know what? I don't want to get to Hajj and have something on my back that Allah doesn't like. And I'm like, this is so powerful. So it was 2017. I landed in Boston for a show with Helping Hand. And I got a call. It wasn't a call. It was a text. It was a voice message. You know how you get off the plane and, you know, your messages come up, text messages, then voicemail. I got a voicemail. And I'm like, okay, you know, what's up? And it was his nephew who had introduced us, Anthony Brown. We first year teachers. He's teaching at University of Texas, Austin right now. Him and his wife, dynamic couple. I said, hey, Aunt, what's going on? And he said, you know, Uncle Ahmad is gone. And I said, what? He said, Uncle Ahmad is gone. Now I'm saying I don't believe it because Ahmad was a vegan. He stayed in incredible shape, you know. They say he passed away in his sleep, natural causes. I say, those years in prison were hard, and I think that taxed his system as well as the stress of just trying to get up and do it every day. That's my opinion. But the first thing I thought about, brothers and sisters, was that he wouldn't be able to go to Hajj. And we had talked about it. We had planned, if you will, to make sure that, inshallah, we would be able to go together. So I could be his guide. He'd be older. Let me give some shouts out here. Thank you, Sister Aika. You too, Sister Sultan. But we talked about going to Hajj. And for me to lie is sit here and lie and tell you I wasn't down about it. Like my first thought was that he wouldn't be able to go to Hajj. It hurt. I mean, it hurt in a deep way. It's like when you and your friends talk about building a business, and you build the business, mad successful, but your friend didn't make it. Your friend's not around anymore. And it was that kind of weird, I guess it's like halal remorse. I think you can have a little remorse that way. And it was so funny because I thought about, man, this would have been the year we would have been able to go. I mean, being able to pay for it. Y'all know Hajj is not cheap. You're going to put up at least 10 G's to go to Hajj. Okay, cool. I can deal with that. My 10, his 10, 20 G's, but I was working. I was working like I'm going to be able to make it. We talked about it. And he passed away. And I was in a weird space, if you will, because that was going to be my Hajj partner. In the vernacular of people that go to Hajj, it's funny because that's my Hajj buddy. See the term, that's my Hajj buddy, because it's such a significant moment in your life. You remember everything about it. You remember every aspect of Hajj, about the good, the bad. I mean, yes, it's very spiritual, but let's be honest. People come up with some funny stories about Hajj. Hajj ain't the most clean place, some people say. People steal your sandals and things like that. And it's funny. I'm like, it's 2 million people. 2 million people. Let it go. It is kind of funny though, but let it go. But in the end, look at the miracle of Hajj. Look at the story of why we have Hajj. Look at the sacrifice in the Quran, in the Torah, in the Bible, about why we have this particular holiday. And it should bring you to an emotional wellspring, if it's not moving you to tears, as I speak right now. The attitude of being grateful lined up with the aspect of being trusting. The attitude of being grateful lined up with the aspect of being trusting is a powerful thing. We don't see it in leadership. It's dissipated in community. Even in the Muslim community, sometimes I question, what happened? You heard me talk about being on post. Think about this. Hajj as an institution has been on post for Muslims since the beginning of Islam. Whether you were there before, whether you're there when it's there, or it will be after, it's been on post in your mind that this is a service. It's not just a service, this is a commitment. This is a requirement to make sure that your spiritual well-being and engagement is full and robust. And sometimes, brothers and sisters, I think we forget that. I know sometimes I forget it on little levels, just the little things. Sometimes people laugh at me. I'll give you a prime example. People laugh at me when they give me salams. They say salams. And I didn't know it was salam when I became Muslim. I thought it was assalamu alaikum. They go, salams. I was like, where do salams come from? Because when I was taught, or when I became Muslim, the idea of assalamu alaikum was so sacred. It was a greeting that said, I am concerned and praying for your welfare. That you, my friend, have value. Think about how people just walk up to you and go, hi, how are you? There's no engagement. I'm invoking, if you will. I'm invoking a prayer of peace on you to be safe, not just you and your family. I'm like, this is groundbreaking. And yet, as Muslims, we forget it. My homie, if you will. You may know him. He passed away recently, not this year, but year before. Imam Qasim Ahmed, who was a foot soldier in the war thing worthy Muhammad community, if you will, and in the Nation of Islam before that. And he told me something one time that I thought was amazing. I said, Assalamu alaikum. He said, Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I didn't think about it. And then he was giving a khutbah one day. And he said, let me tell you why that greeting is important. And he put it in his own way. He said, you tell me salam. He goes, I don't want salam. He said, I want everything. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He said, I want the peace, the mercy, and the blessing. The peace, the mercy, and the blessing. And when I talked to him about Hajj, he said that's what Hajj was to him. The peace, the mercy, and the blessing. And so we begin to move forward, brothers and sisters. For this, 10 days that we have, I want to move away from some of the topics I normally talk about. Because honestly, I can flip them around. There's a lot of redundancy. And I've learned this, when something is wrong, you can only talk about something being wrong for so long until you make it right. Like they said, if something's loud, you can only talk about something being loud till you turn the volume down. If somebody's hungry, you can only talk about being hungry till somebody gets some food. Everything has to be a process. And so the idea of Hajj, brothers and sisters, is this not our process? This is not our process. For whatever it is, I love the fact that they open Hajj up. It's only like, they say it might be 10,000 people, whatever, social distancing. But I'm like, you know what? Let me tell you something. The tradition continues. And I am happy that the tradition continues. Not for myself, but for our kids. And we'll look back, 15, 20 years, and they'll talk about this horrible plague. And some kid will go, yeah, but we still had Hajj. Think about this. Mosques are closed. Churches are closed. Businesses are closed. But the space where you go to connect thoroughly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is open. And while we can't all go, heck, guess what? We just can't all go. It wasn't meant to be. Get over it. But don't get over it too far. Because I want you to think that there are people who struggle to get to Hajj. If you get a chance, you know what? Go back and read Malcolm X's autobiography, just the Hajj portion. I understand the love that his sister, she took her Hajj money and gave it to him and said, you need to go. Much the same as I wanted to go, much the same as Ahmad wanted to go. You know what? We would celebrate and rejoice, and we would fast, and we were happy. You know why? Because people were going. We were supportive of people going. And when people came back from Hajj, we were happy to see them. I remember we have Hajj parties, and I would go perform, and I would sit like a young kid, listen to people talk. Because you could hear it in their voice, in their spirit, that they had been changed. They had been touched in a certain way. And you know what? It gave us inspiration. It gave us pride. If you can say that, it gave us pride. And as a wrap up here, I think about this one thing about my brother, Ahmad Bilal. Good man, made some mistakes, struggled, came out. He was a man about whatever happened. He strode in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the end, brothers and sisters, he died and he didn't get to go to Hajj. He did one better. Got to go to paradise. I'm Preacher Moss. Shout out show. Get your fasting on tomorrow. We'll be back. Everybody who's over in Hajj, I can hear my voice. Probably can't. Please enjoy your Hajj experience, your pilgrimage. And all you other brothers and sisters that didn't get a chance to go, I want you here to enjoy their Hajj pilgrimage experience. And we're going to be able to build something special. Over the next 10 days, you know what? We're going to open up our minds. We're going to close the door a little bit. Some of the stuff that's been out here because it's toxic. It's a little toxic. It makes it hard to breathe. People talking about I can't breathe because of COVID. You can't breathe because, we're not bringing fresh air, fresh thoughts in. So the shout out show is going to be directed and focused on trying to bring us some different airs and some different air, if you will, and some fresh air, some fresh ideas. I just want to say, hey, listen, thank you guys for listening, and make dua for my brother, Ahmad Bilal, and other people who may not have been able to go to Hajj this year, especially those that have passed away and gone back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray for them too. And I hope you guys don't mind. I know you guys know I'm a comedian. I do make a lot of jokes, funny jokes, some of them inappropriate. But sometimes the humor, it's not the humor, it's the love. It's not the love, it's the idea that you feel good about something. And sometimes it doesn't result in laughter, it just results in a really good feeling. And I hope you got that feeling because I did. Now, everybody take care of yourself. And you know what? Today, get your meal, whatever you're trying to do, because tomorrow we're in Hajj mode, and I hope everybody's going to enjoy it here as much as if you did going over there. Let me give a shout out to Brother Harun. This is my homie, Northern Cali. Everybody, I just want you to take care. Keep me in dua. I'll keep you in my duas. And you know what? This Hajj, even though you can't go for most of us, this Hajj, let's make it special. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace.